In this lesson, let's go ahead and start to build up the main shapes of the car. So here you can see that we just have kind of a templated piece of geometry here. Now if you've gone through that process that we talked about of thumbnail sketches and then maybe 3D prototyping, you may have some low-res geometry that you want to use and kind of match up. If you do, you can place that on a layer and template that and use that as a template. I've just placed some very simple geometry in here just to give us an idea of placement and volume, as we're not using image planes or anything like that. So if you'd like to, you can use this one if you're going to be following along and building this particular vehicle. Feel free to do that. You can also use your own geometry as a template if you'd like to do that, if that'll help you out a little bit more. I've also got a shelf that I'm building up here. I've currently just got the delete history and freeze transforms on here, but as we go through and use different tools, I'll probably go ahead and just add them with the Control-Shift-Click to our shelf so that we can access those more easily. Alright, to start out, let's go ahead and put some tires in here just so we can get a better idea as we know where those are going to go, and then we can build that body sort of around it. So let's go ahead and create a polygon, and let's create a tube, a torus actually, and we'll go ahead and scale it up a bit. And let's go ahead and just rotate that 90 degrees in the Z. Alright, and now we need to get more of a tire shape, so we'll dial down, go to the creation node here and dial down the section radius so it's a bit more, what a nice thin tire here. And let's go ahead and let's bump our subdivisions along the axis up a little bit. So we're going to be working with polygons, and some of the shapes we're going to be wanting to have them a little bit higher res. So we want our tire to be fairly high res because we want to get a nice curved shape here. Okay, and you can make it lower res if you plan on smoothing it later, which is what we're going to do with some of the pieces. This particular piece we'll probably go ahead and leave this. So somewhere around 30 subdivisions on the axis. Let's go ahead and dial these subdivisions down to 9. And here, okay, so we don't need that much resolution along this direction. That also gives us the geometry to be able to pull this out. So now if we go down to our front view here, and I'll just select basically everything on one side, and I'll just pull it straight out. So like I've got a bit too much selected there. I'll deselect that. And we'll just pull that straight out until we get the kind of shape that we want. And that gives us kind of a racing tire look. And let's go ahead and move it from the side view, and we'll match up with our axle template that we have here, if that's what you're using. And go ahead and scale it down a bit. And so you put your center right at the center of the axle template, and then just scale that down until the bottom of the tire contacts with the grid line there. Alright, and then we can duplicate that and move that forward. And these tires are just kind of temporary. We'll be detailing them, and then once you get one detailed, you'll be able to again duplicate that. So we're just kind of duplicating them into place at this point so that we can kind of see where everything goes. And from our top view, we'll go ahead and move them over. Move this back one kind of flush with this template, and then this front one, the wheel fitment's kind of staggered here. All right. And if you want to go ahead and put the other ones over on the other side, you can. I'm going to go ahead and leave these just as they are, so we're going to be working mainly on one side so that we can isolate our work. You don't have to kind of do everything twice. All right, so the way that we're going to be building the body of our car is going to be a little bit different than some of the other training that we've done. We've kind of done a sub-D workflow. We've done a NURBS kind of patching workflow. For this one, I think we're going to go try to stick with a polygon box modeling and see what we can do, because there are going to be some specific challenges that we're going to face when doing our model with polygons, especially a model like a car that has kind of smooth surfaces combined with these sharp lines that are going to go along the surface of the car. You want to be able to get those lines but still maintain that smooth surface without getting any dents. So I think it's going to be very useful for us to go through that process of building that up using polygons so that we can look at those challenges and figure out some ways to get past those. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in some geometry. So we'll go ahead and bring in a polygon primitive, and we'll just start with a cube. And I'll scale it up so we can see it. I'll go ahead and change the subdivisions, and let's go ahead and set those to 6 along the X, and then 2, and then 4, just to start with. And we want to just start to kind of block this in. You can start by just scaling it to fit your template here. All right. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and delete half of it. And I'll just delete the half that doesn't have the wheels. And then we can start to just kind of move these pieces into position here. So from the side, you can see that we can move this up. And we'll bring it off the ground a little bit. And we'll just start to move some of these pieces into position from the different angles and just try to match that up a little bit more. And now this, I think what we want to do actually, this template actually combines the shape of not only the body but also the engine, and the engine's going to stick up right here. So what we want to do is actually make the top of the body right along this line. So let's go ahead and do that rather than matching that up with the engine, and then we'll bring that engine off of that shape. So go ahead and match this up. Okay. And you can always grab these points and snap them to the grid lines. Give you a little bit better control over it. Now there are advantages and disadvantages for using a polygon workflow like this. You know, you have a low-res mesh that you're able to use to control the mesh. But if you're going to be smoothing this, which we are, you're going to have to worry about the shape changing anytime you add resolution, because the smoothing algorithm is going to smooth between here and here, you know, here, here, and here. And if you start adding resolution here, that shape's going to change a little bit. Now we're working at fairly low resolutions right now, so it's not going to bother us too much, but it will be something that we have to watch out for. So we'll just kind of shape this. And now we need to start to think about some of the different lines that we're going to have on our car. And these lines are kind of longitudinal lines going along the surface of the car that if you look at any vehicle, you'll see those kind of lines. The A line is going to be the kind of the profile of the car. So from the side, you're going to look at it and you're going to see the profile. And that's kind of the A line. If we go in here. So that's going to be this line right in here. Okay, so let's start to think about our polygon edges as these lines. So we're going to have an A line that defines the center of the car. Okay, we're going to have a belt line which kind of goes around the bottom of the cockpit, up and around the engine, and then is going to come in at the front of the car. We also have a shoulder line, which is kind of a creased line that's right next to the belt line coming across here, and that's going to actually fade up as it comes into the deck up here on the back. Okay, and we also have a really prominent character line or a bone line around the side of the car that's going to come in. So those are the things that we need to think about, and we can start to think about these edges as representing those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to shape this front end a little bit. And you can see here that this is coming out past the tire. Now what we want to do is actually extrude that off. So I can bring this whole thing in, okay, and bring that all the way in here, because that's going to be a separate piece. Okay, so we'll go ahead and bring this, kind of squeeze these together, come on the inside of this tire, and some of these lines start to converge, which is kind of what we want. Okay, but we still have fairly low resolution here, so we're definitely going to need to start adding a little bit more resolution to start getting some of the shapes in here. So let's go ahead and continue using this very simple box to build out the shape of our car. So we'll come in the next lesson still looking at these lines, and we'll start adding some more resolution to really start to refine the shape to get what we want. So we'll see you in the next lesson.